The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade. Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we educate, empower, and entertain. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, download, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to The Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here a nice couple, and they are Damoi and Joe. We're going to speak about is marriage hard after kids? And this is something that many persons have been asking to speak about. So we're going to go into it with them. So first of all, hi Damoi, hi Joe.
Hi Jade, how are you?
I did.
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this space with me. All right,
Sure.
so we're gonna jump into it because that's what we do here. So I want you guys to define first what is a happy marriage. Anybody can go first.
It's so funny. We were thinking about, what really is a happy marriage, and it really has come to. I mean, a happy marriage. It tends to give a feel of, just bliss and shared joy, and the fairy tale. I think what is and life is no fairy tale.
Nope.
What I think is the closest that we can aim for is a healthy marriage. And so I think a happy marriage is a healthy marriage. And so it speaks to, one, just the support that you offer to each other, really becoming one, the unison that the Bible speaks about, where the Bible talks about, the husband loving the wife as his own body. You understand me? It's to that point where you don't see yourself as two different entities, but as a single entity, and a single goal. So my wife's goals are my goals, so I think a healthy marriage is understanding, that we are, it's not two separate individuals. It's one single entity. If she fails, I can't say how I've succeeded if she fails. So it's seeing yourself in that light.
Yeah, I think I would just kind of build on what he's saying. A healthy marriage is a marriage where both persons are committed to each other. They're committed to serving, supporting, loving, and loving in terms of what that looks like for each person. They are willing to be patient. They are willing to forgive over and over and over.
Mercy.
And when I say patient, I think, as I was reflecting on the question, I mean, patient because life is a journey and we change and life changes, circumstances changes. We have really high moments and very low moments. And so, a healthy marriage involves us being able to be patient through all of these circumstances. And as Damoi says, to love each other and respect each other. And I know it kind of sounds cliche, but when 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love and how it unpacks love, and it says it's kind, it's gentle, it's not rude, it's not disrespectful. Like those things to me describe a healthy marriage.
Okay, so we started off very packed. Those are some packed answers that we can delve into, but I'm gonna stray away from doing that because I don't want to move away from our topic really. So with all that definition of what a happy marriage is, or I'm gonna say a happy, healthy marriage is, what really happens to a happy or a healthy marriage after we have kids? What happens?
Oh, put it this way: before kids, you were living life on easy mode.
Listen,
Like the beginners level. I heard
listen.
yeah. So like I heard somebody say to I still think it was a joke. But it's just they were saying how everything just becomes that much more difficult once you have children. Before, when you wanted to go to the supermarket, you got up, you went to the supermarket, you bought what
Don't
you want, and you
play.
left.
Listen.
No, when you have children, especially if you have young children, going to the supermarket is really like preparing for the Olympic triathlon. It's nothing less. Anybody tells you otherwise,
It's a lie.
my gosh, from the pit. So what it does is, to be honest, children, I believe marriage is definitely the nest for healthy children, for a healthy family. And so in many cases, when the marriage isn't right, the family isn't.
That's
You
right.
understand me? And so it's kind of the foundation. So what happens after the marriage now is what really happens is the love that I have towards my wife now gets extended towards this extension of her and myself. You understand me? And in so doing, the same level of, not even the same, different levels. Just but it's the same thing. It's the patience. It's the it's all of those things that I would have been extending to my wife. I'm now extending to this extension of her. While still having to still extend it to my wife.
Mercy.
Yeah. So which is why I'm saying it's just like it really is double up. So I mean that's what life is like in general with children. It's really, it can be challenging, but in the same way, it's double the work, it's double the pleasure because I take joy, in seeing my wife being happy. And so I'd also take joy in seeing my children happy, who are an extension of myself.
So in that sense, then, is it that marriage then and having kids, does it lend you to be more patient?
Oh no. Quite the opposite. quite the opposite.
What? So I don't know. For me, having children, it can certainly test your patience. And it's not necessarily just because of the children, but it is also because you are a bit more stretched. So, when you have children, it's not happening in a vacuum, right? It's happening alongside the rest of life. So it's happening while you're working.
Yep.
While you might be studying. It's happening, for some persons, maybe you have ailing parents. Just life is happening at the same time when you're having children. And so your marriage is also a part of that mix. And so when you are when you have children and your resources are stretched, then it can cause you to be a bit short with your spouse because also there are new expectations. So you would have established some expectations that you had when you were married, and maybe you became accustomed to that depending on how long after you had children. So for us, we started to have kids about 5 years after we were married. And I do not regret it. I do not regret it.
Not at all.
But new expectations kind of emerge, and sometimes you're not always aware that you have these new expectations. You just kind of you transition and you expect your partner to perhaps know some of the expectations that you have. And so then when they're not fulfilling these expectations, then you can become impatient because, well, they're not living up to what you are expecting, And so I find that in this time, communication is critical.
Listen, oh yeah. Oh yeah. For the communication and how critical it is, do you communicate even by romance? Like, we need to do something about our romantic life. Do you see it changing since you have kids? And how has communication been in that department?
Communication and romance.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So generally for me, in terms of quality time and finding time for romance and time together, it's figuring out how to be intentional in the pockets of times that you have available. And that is challenging because, again, life is happening, And so, trying to be intentional about communicating, hanging out, talking, being intentional about sex and intimacy and dating. I will
oh my God.
Those things are not necessarily easy. I mean, it is even more helpful if you have a support system where you can leave your kids at grandma, or you have a caregiver, a nanny, a babysitter that can come. But sometimes it's not always that easy to organize.
Right.
And depending on where you are in terms of country, location, financial state, just all of these different factors can play a role in how feasible it is to do some of these things. However, learning to do, romantic things again in the pockets of time at home when the kids are asleep, and then also depending on how old your children are to organize their sleep time so that you can get time. These are some of the things to me that are key in ensuring that we can organize romantic spaces and intimacy and constant communication.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of intentionality.
It does. It does. Finances. How do you find finances? Before and after kids?
Kids are expensive,
No joke on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scripture in Proverbs that says that you should build your home. You should build your business before you build your home. And there's a reason for that. Because I mean, what happens now is, I mean, it goes back to exactly what was said before. Everything that I would have extended to my spouse, I'm now having to find an excess. And this is where we believe, this is truly where we believe that, marriage is a covenant between three, because sometimes you're wondering where you will get it from. But I truly believe that, the best marriages are the one where we are not trying to necessarily fill each other's baskets from our own void, but we're trying to fill each other from what we've received from God. You understand me? He's the eternal source. He's lacking nothing. So the love towards my wife, I feel like many times God fills my heart with love for her, right? Patience towards my wife and towards my children. I feel like God fills my heart with patience towards my wife and to my children. And so what happens is, and you're probably wondering what this has to do with finances.
Yes.
Oh, no. Well.
Because again, finances is not in a vacuum, It does, and I can tell you from a male perspective, man definitely wanting to be the provider for his home wants to ensure that everything is there. That you have, that all the needs are met. So it means then if my wife and my children need me, that I dig a bit deeper to try to see how I can make sure it happens. Find different ways. So which is where I go back to, build your business before you build your home, because a lot of the times you have to be thinking about that from the time aspect, because time is money. You have less time. But in a way, what marriage and children does to you is, how the Jamaican saying with, in trouble take a picnic shot fit you, that's it.
Um, hmm.
You understand me? And so what happens is you will find yourself, because of, and it really stems from love, finding ways to make things happen. The Bible says that love, in the same First Corinthians, it says love never quits, love never fails, it doesn't give up. So if it is that I love my children and a part of it, and I love my family and I want to provide for my family, I won't quit at it. It means you literally find it deep within yourself. You start to look, you are actively now opening your mind to find the way, because not having it is not an option.
It's
You
not
know,
an option.
yeah, it's not an option. You can't just sit up in your hunger.
You can't. I say, I don't have it, but I love you.
Yeah. Um, and so, I mean, and I want to just bear in mind that there are people from all walks of life who are listening to this.
Yes.
And you do have persons who really don't have a lot. But I do believe, especially from a male perspective, and I believe once God is there in the mix, I mean, He's the ultimate provider. So
Right.
as much as I consider myself the provider of my home, God is the provider for me.
Yes.
I am the protector of my home, but God is my protector. So I am really being to my family what God has been, and from the perspective, it really does, make you dig deep to try to um ensure that what needs to happen
Happens.
Yeah.
Does it cause more stress?
Oh
Because
yeah.
before you had, okay, it was just my wife, it was just Joe that
Oh,
I'm taking.
definitely. There's a saying, there's a saying, more money, more problems.
Oh,
While I can attest to that to some amount, but less money also equals to more problems. So it's a very weird equation we have there. More is
yes.
more and less is more.
I agree.
And so, I mean, it does cause stress, but the truth is, where you have more stress, what really should be happening is you have more prayer. You
Oh,
understand me? I'm of the belief, I'm seriously of the belief that the Lord provides. You understand me? For His own, and He directs and He gives us wisdom. So I'm and in many ways, I encourage. I mean, this is finance talk now. I was talking marriage, but I I believe that the Lord has given us the power to gain wealth. You understand me? He's given us the Bible tells us to pursue wisdom, and it also tells us that wealth is stored up for the wise. You understand me? So in bearing those things in consideration, once you have children, what you're actually doing is um you have to now dig deeper into God to become provider, and ask Him to show you the ways to earn. And I promise you, there are no shortage of ways to earn money in this day and age in 2023.
yes.
There are no shortage of ways to make money. But what we do have is limited mindsets. And what tends to happen is God has to open our mindsets to help us to think of new avenues. So podcasting, you can blow up on YouTube, you never know. Right.
Mm,
So they're just different mediums right now. And it just really requires us to step out, you know.
understood. And even talking about the financial aspect of things, the I have something else to ask, but then it ties into this, because if it is that you have a stressed husband trying to provide for his family, and then you have a unhappy wife because she's the one tending most of the kids at home because the husband is out working. That's if it's the case, that's a scenario. Then you have an unhappy home. So it's no longer a healthy home because you have two stressed persons stressing about two different things. How is it that how is it that
And I want to say,
that? Mm-hmm.
so two things. I want to first draw the distinction. While not having money can be stressful, I don't doubt that one bit. Having money doesn't lead to contentment.
No, it
You
doesn't.
understand me? it doesn't lead to contentment. As a matter of fact, there's a saying that a wife is tested when her husband doesn't have money, but a husband is tested when he has a lot of money. Right?
Mm.
Yeah, man. You understand me? And
I
so,
believe that.
yeah,
I believe that.
yeah, man, that's facts. So it I don't want to. It's not a one-to-one correlation where because there's no money, the family can't be happy. As a matter of fact, I like to draw this conclusion right now. A lot the contentment factor. It has to do with the Bible tells us clearly. You understand me that discontentment comes from comparison. It comes from you looking at your marriage and looking at the Joneses and saying, "Oh, we're not like the Joneses." If we were to compare ourselves currently, I mean the poorest of the poor, in Jamaica currently. You understand? While I do acknowledge there's we call it, you do have food scarcity, and you have people who live not knowing where the next meal comes from, right? There are persons who back in the Middle Ages in the 1500s, right, who would have gone through, who don't have access to what we have. You understand me? I mean, literally, if you can open your kitchen cupboard and you have 15 to 20 different spices, you have your curry, you have your black pepper, you have so many, you have cinnamon, you have all these things were reserved for kings back in the olden days. In the
Right.
Middle Ages, it was literally king. So some of the things that we have now, right? It leads it we are not in a position where I would say put it this way, there are people who have less who are content. And so it
Yes.
shows you that contentment doesn't necessarily come from the amount of money that you're making. You understand me?
Mhm.
I believe contentment comes from gratitude. One, that's the first place. But two, I also believe what can cause like a strained relationship is where it is clear where one person is being lazy and not fulfilling their covenant. You understand me? So that is where I believe it will come from. So if there's no
Mr.
money,
Simpson,
yeah.
are you saying that if people are unhappy, it's because somebody is being lazy?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying a legitimate cause for
Okay.
strain in terms of finances and being unhappy. No, that is a legitimate cause to be unhappy. However, because not because you have a cause, it means that's the route you must go. You do have the option to still choose contentment, still choose peace. And there are persons who are going through that, where my spouse isn't doing, I'm doing everything. Them not get up, them not helping. That becomes exceptionally difficult because what happens now is this person is no longer showing love.
Yeah,
That's
but
what's
how
happening.
can they show love when they're stressed?
Now, hear what I'm saying. If the person who now work, person who decides, hey, I'm not doing everything I can to ensure my family has what my family needs. That person is no longer showing love.
Yeah, I understand. All right. So with that person who is no longer showing love in that
Right,
in that aspect that you're talking about,
right.
is it because some people have this particular mindset. And you may say, it's their fault and they need to work on that, but they have this particular mindset. If they're not working in this particular job place or this position, they don't want to work.
Mhm.
They don't want to quote unquote just do something just to make money. If it is that they're not doing a specific thing that brings them joy, are they lazy?
Yeah, definitely.
Precisely.
Absolutely. 100%.
Why are they lazy?
Let me explain.
Oh
Let me
my
explain.
God.
Yeah, so I was saying if somebody chooses that I only want to work a particular job while my family starves, if that person is lazy, and I said definitely, but it's not just lazy, it's also prideful, you know, and at most it's also lacking in love, because the truth is, pride is self-centered, you know, pride is I'm not thinking about myself, while love
You mean
actually,
you're thinking about
yeah, I'm
yourself?
thinking about myself, right? While love is I'm placing the other person's need above my own, right? So That being said, I think the person is not operating in love. Two, I think the person is operating in pride. And does that pride can that pride lead to laziness? Of course. Because I mean anybody would say, oh, because I don't have this job, I won't work, or I don't do this job, I won't do that job, or I don't do this job. I mean, maybe it's not so much laziness, but it's definitely pride. Precisely.
Understood. So what he's saying is that for those persons out there who need to provide for your family, but you don't see the job yet that you want, to do something else to provide for your family. Meanwhile, you wait on the job to come that you want.
Most definitely.
Whew, okay.
I mean, just to add to that, and I'll speak to us. I mean, especially for the males, you're not relieved at no point in your marriage are you relieved from the responsibility of providing.
Say that again. No, man, say that.
Yeah, at no point are you relieved of that duty. It's a commitment and it's a covenant. And in the same way, I see the thing about loving, the Bible gives the man the responsibility to love his wife as Christ loved the church. It's a big thing, It's a big thing. It's a big thing. Because last time I checked, Jesus took no days off.
Boy.
I wrote a song for my wife when we were getting married called Dying to Love You. And the reason why the song came to me is literally because I recognized that for each thing that I would want for my wife, right? Each compromise, it's a daily death in some ways. In the same way, you have to die daily for your walk, for your faith. I believe the same is required.
Okay.
It's putting her cares, putting her above her needs above mine.
Right.
You understand me? So if you want to know what loving your wife as Christ loved the church looks like, you look at the cross. That is the definition. That is, if your husband, it's hard. It is a very hard thing to think. But if you are a young couple and you're getting married and you're a husband, and you should ask yourself, am I willing? I mean, it's rough. It's rough. But I won't say that we are all there, but the mark that is required of us is, are we willing to be crucified for our wives? It sounds weird. It sounds weird.
Wow.
It sounds weird. But if you were to look at as Christ loved his church and gave himself for her, that is the degree to which Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. So if you're walking in a biblical marriage, that is literally the request, That being said, it is no small feat, and it's something to be something that you should go into carefully considering what it is that you're doing.
I don't think we do that though.
No. Right now, everybody look for, who can make me happy?
Of course.
Who's gonna make me happy? I heard somebody say something the other day, which it blows your mind about when you think about what really marriage is. And it stuck with me. It said marriage is not just committing to this person that you're marrying, but it's committing to, who this person will become. You have no idea. I have no idea who my wife will be in 15 years. But I'm not just committing to my wife today. I'm also committing to that woman 15 years from now who I have not yet met.
This is stressing me out.
Yeah.
This is
so
fully stressing me out. I'm gonna jump in because all right. So I had written a book. It's called Things Left Unsaid Before I Do. And that started in my first marriage and I ended it in my second marriage. And I put it out there. And I had to understand myself basically. Because my expectations were what caused a lot of problems in the marriage. And it's because I'm expecting this person to be like this. You're supposed to be like this without even having that conversation with them about it.
Mhm.
And what you are saying is not something that's spoken about.
Mhm.
So I expect that you be the man of the house, but did we talk about what the man of the house is like?
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times we get married expecting, okay, he's gonna be the man of the house. Okay, he's gonna take care of me. Okay, after we have kids, he's still the provider. He's still whatever. But those things change, and probably what we thought providing looked like no doesn't look like that 10 years from now. And that's why constant conversations are important. So when you're talking about us dying for the males, really, us, everybody, we both have to do it. Kill ourselves, kill our flesh daily to maintain a happy, to maintain that marriage that God desires. And many of us don't because we're not taught to do so. We're taught to get married, a man's supposed to take care of you. We don't know what take care of look like. All these expectations that we have without even saying to our partner, but what does take care of look like to you? What does dying for me in terms of in the marriage look like to you? What? Yeah.
And a part of this makes me want to speak about another part of marriage that needs to be another light, I would say, that needs to be unearthed. I believe, I believe in many instances when there's a wedding, right? There are witnesses there,
Right.
right? There are many persons who believe that when you get married, oh, my marriage is just between me and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what a marriage is the coming together of two communities.
Oh gosh.
You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in many instances you can know what your spouse's values are based on how they operate within their own community.
If it is that you see them operating in that community.
And I encourage persons to see them operating in their community
Oh
before,
boy.
So I mean, what comes to my mind is literally is Isaac and Rebecca, where Isaac, somebody was sent out, this girl was just brought to Isaac. But you see, because we live in a day and age, where everybody picking them own spouse, that's just what it is. Right. But he went and he saw how she operated. He saw that she not only watered her camels, but she watered his camels as well. And then when he went back, he understood the culture of it because it was his father's brother, right? So it was the community. So the community is coming together. The value systems, how people operate. It is very, 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 very important because a part of it is the communities is what will help to hold each other accountable. You understand me?
Well,
Yeah. And without that, people right now with people dropping off accountability left, right, and center, and that's just being honest. When it's just you being married and it's just everything that happens is between me and you, there is no accountability. And I believe when God called the family together, the marriage together, the marriage was the base for the family is the base for the community, and the community is the base for the nation. And so what happens is the nation does hold you accountable. I mean, the government holds me accountable for how I treat my wife. If I'm abusive to her, if I want a divorce, then we want to split
yep.
the assets down the middle. You understand me? And so what happens is there is an accountability structure that needs to be in place. And so when you are getting married, is something to consider as well. You understand me? What is the nature of this person's culture? What's the nature of this person's community?
And I think I just want to add in terms of the general sense, whether it is children, being added to the family or other, life circumstances. I say in what I've learned from my marriage is that we are both healing and becoming whole over a number of years together.
Yep.
And so that means that some of the things that we may discover about ourselves, we may not discover it until years later, though we are displaying particular behaviors that are really challenging each other.
Right.
You know, and I find that it's important to remember that, because we are, for example, when Damoi and I got married, we were both 26.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some challenging situations that we were going through, but we both sought to handle it to the best of our ability.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back at that stage, I recognize, but we were young.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
We were young, handling big people things. And
Yep.
so, I had expectations of him. He had expectations of me. And we were doing it according to what we knew at the time. Years later, we both could see how things could be adjusted, but
Yeah.
that would have taken time, And another thing that I want to add is that I think what's important for us as Christians is sometimes we may have to take our eyes off of our spouse for a bit and just focus it on the Lord.
Jesus.
And remember that, though we are married to this person, though we want a healthy marriage, and we do want a happy marriage, we want to feel the passion, we want to feel the excitement, we want to, but the truth is that we are called to honor God in our actions, in our attitudes, in our beliefs. And so sometimes when we are unable to, in a sense, see our husband or spouse, or, wife, representing God to us, we have to look directly to God to be able to fill that need, to be able to help us to hang on to him and hang on to the marriage in the midst of this. Because there were times when I was just like, yo, my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I can't do this anymore. But I had to, for me, it was fixing my eyes and saying, I at the end of this, I'm going to have to give an account.
Yes.
For my words, for my actions, for my behavior. And through the challenging processes, God was refining me. It wasn't just about my husband and what he was doing or not doing. It was about me and the sin and the awfulness I had in my life that needed to come to the surface. And so, when children come into the picture, those things become even more apparent, because if marriage is bringing out some of the more difficult aspects of ourselves, so will children. And then you see yourself in the children, and you see some of their good behaviors, and you're happy, but then you see some of it. Yes.
And you say, is that me?
Exactly.
What is that?
And you're like, Lord God.
And I'm like, God has a way of showing me who I am. Look at
that. Exactly. And and so as as children come into play, again, we have to go back to God. And this is a transition for me, becoming a mother, accepting being a mother, and looking at defining what motherhood is like, because for a long time I struggled with, and I'm still working through, what is my kind of motherhood supposed to be like? What I've seen around me has a particular look. So you have persons, I wrote a post on my page the other day on Mother's Day, because Mother's Day sometimes I go into a very reflective space. Am I a good mother? All of these different things come to mind. And, I think I look at those who, they're doing all the things. So they're cooking and they're cleaning and they're working and they're, taking care of their husband, and they're just doing everything, and I'm tired and, all of these things. And I'm like, but I'm not that person,
And it's okay. But I read that post. Actually.
Yeah. And so
I was like, well, it seems almost as if you're comparing yourself to what other women are doing to define if you're a good mother or not. And I'm like, you don't have to do that.
Exactly. I was. And so, my transition into accepting who God has called me to be as a mother, because there's who God has called you to be as an individual and who he has called you to be in the professional space. But who he has called you to be as a mother is something that has to be processed as well. And so I've had to, and still am, processing the fact that, look, I am the mother that's going to go out there and work, and I would like to outsource my household duties. And when we talk about Proverbs 31 woman, the Proverbs 31
Right.
woman, sorry. In my mind, I had the picture of the first type of woman, which is the woman who was doing everything in the house, everything outside, everything in every space. And then I read it again, and I was like, but that's not what happened.
She went out and she did stuff.
Exactly. And the Bible said she
ma'am.
managed her house.
She managed it,
now,
right?
how that management looks is left for interpretation.
That's right.
And that could mean persons actually doing things in their house, and that could mean persons actually just ensuring that the things in their house are done. And it doesn't mean that you are divorced from the process and you're not involved, but it just looks differently. And so I think even a part of having children and being married, there is a level of understanding of who you are as a mother, because also when I feel like I'm an inadequate mother, it also impacts on my marriage.
Yes, it does.
Right? And so we have to be able to find our identity as mothers in God, find and fathers, find our identity as in terms of being a spouse in God as well. Because again, am I the wife that does X, Y, and Z? So I have a friend, and I was talking to him, and I'm saying, look, my husband isn't necessarily going to get a nice big Jamaican dinner from me, because that's just not me. And he's like, boy, oh my God.
And that's the thing, when people outside
you have a good husband there, man. And I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah,
you could hear.
when it is
we
that,
have expectations.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Because I was about to say, sometime when we listen to outside voices, sometimes it kind of confuses as to what we and our husbands have. So your husband have something, but you go out and you tell somebody, oh, well, I'm not gonna do this. You're not doing that for him. No, man. You need to do that for him. And then sit down, really. Should I be doing this? Lord have mercy. And then you disrupt what you have, because people who are not married to your spouse have told you what your spouse that you're married to would like.
And thankfully at that point I already did in business, so I know that. I was secure in that, but just saying that some of what we hold to be true in terms of our expectations of ourselves as spouses or parents are actually cultural and societal expectations and norms that we have internalized, and not necessarily biblical. And so part of, as we, kind of move forward and go on this journey of marriage and children, of family, we have to be clear with the help of the Holy Spirit to, what is a lie or a cultural norm versus what is a biblical truth. And how does that apply to me in this circumstance? Because also there are seasons that God may require us to do different things. There are times when he may actually require me to do all the things in my home.
Okay.
And that's okay. But also, there are other seasons when he does not. And so, for me, surviving marriage and surviving adding children to marriage is a lot about hanging on to God and my own walk with God. Damoi mentioned it earlier. And a belief that we had early is that if our individual relationships with God are shoddy, they're not firm and secure, when our eyes have been taken off, when we're too busy and we're not engaging with God, or we're not it affects our marriage.
Yes.
And we find that we are less sacrificial, we are less patient, we're less able to serve each other. And that's because we are not getting refreshing from God. Right. Because when our spouse nor our children can fill the needs that we have many needs. And so both of us, I will say, I will confess sometimes, when it comes to sex, my husband has to be patient with me. He has to be patient with me, right? And in other areas, I will have to be patient with him, when it comes to other relational circumstances, right. And so when we have those human needs, it's very important as we talk to our spouse, because it's not, we go to God and we don't talk at all. We're both we're both spiritual as we are human.
Right.
So we're talking about it, but we're also going to God to work on our hearts, on our spouse's hearts, to get us to the places where we need to be.
I love that. For persons who are married and have children, whether married or not, but they have children, and they have lost that sight of happiness in their marriage because there's a lot. It's overwhelming. Having children can be overwhelming, especially if it's the first time or if you don't have. Not many persons have people around them to help them. And I know Damoi spoke about the community. Many persons don't have a community to help. So persons who are overwhelmed, and because of being overwhelmed, they have moved further away from each other. What are some of the encouragements that you'd give to them?
So it's those who are overwhelmed, and because it has caused people to move away from each
Right.
other. So there are two different things. For those who are overwhelmed, I would encourage persons who are feeling overwhelmed to rest. It's marriage can take a lot. It does take a lot. It does require a lot. To give to somebody, it does require you to be replenished yourself. And which is what I spoke about earlier, when you try to give from empty cisterns. You're trying to give and you are void, So in situations like that, it can be very difficult. So for persons who are overwhelmed, I would encourage them to rest. Resting can cause you to have a different perspective of your push after you rest. You understand me? In the same way, when you're tired and you're trying to work and you're trying to push and you're not resting, what happens is the quality that you're able to produce when you are tired, when you are stressed, diminishes.
Yes.
And so self-care is also a very big part of marriage.
Yes.
It's very unlikely that you are able to take care of your spouse if you're not being taken care of. You understand me? I can't give to some. If Bible tells you, you should. It's a very funny. There's two different things. But the Bible tells you that you should. But yeah, the Bible does tell us that there's a day of rest and we should take time. And that resting helps us to then look after our spouse. There are some persons who are in situations where the level of care that they're able to give to their spouse the spouse is unable to reciprocate.
Right.
The spouse may be incapacitated in whatever way, maybe unwell, but it does require you. You can't, and I encourage people, don't just think of yourself as, as you just keep going. You have to replenish it. You have to be replenished. And in you being replenished, and I believe that's where God comes in. He's the source. He replenishes us.
Right.
And once he replenishes us, we will then have enough to continue. And when you feel dry again, you go back, you replenish, you get refreshed, you come again. So yeah.
In addition to that, I will say go to counseling. Right? I think for me, counseling is not just a when house burned down kind of thing when our marriage is failing. I believe in counseling for tune-ups, for personal, just clarity, just to get my head straight. Right? I think what's important is that, again, we remove some of the cultural barriers about counseling so that we can get help. Right? Sometimes we have experiences that we would have gone through with our spouse that we need to process, that we need to work through, that because life keeps going and going and going, it hasn't allowed us to stop and to think. And sometimes we need help to process that. And sometimes members of our community, that is our friends or family, don't have the capabilities to really, or the competence to help us to process in the way that we need to in order to move forward, right? And to deal with our overwhelm. And then other than that, there is even coaching. So there is, how can somebody help me, to get the tools that I need to navigate this season of life? And to navigate this overwhelm, because, for example, with kids and marriage, it might just be a matter of structuring life. Maybe there's not enough planning. So, for example, for me now, right now, I'm trying to hold a very tight, structured schedule in order to do all of the things that I would like to do and what I believe God has called me to do. And so there are various, so there's the resting, there's the counseling, there's the coaching, and then there's prayer and just time with God, which is resting at a kind of part, a part of all three. But I want to focus on it because, you see, God is the one that carries us on the journey of healing, rest, and wholeness.
Right.
And when we look to him, then he will use all of the various things that happen in our life to bring us to that place, so that we would rest, we would get counseling, we would get coaching, and they're not isolated things, but they're all a part of a larger journey of God bringing us to a place of healing for us as individuals, for the sake of our marriage, for the sake of our family, and for the sake of the other things that he may have called us to do.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for this. There's a lot to unpack in the discussion that we've had. But I'm hoping and I'm praying that persons will get from it the message that God wants each individual to get, especially being married and taking care of kids. And I know it's hard for people out there, but just trust the process. And take time for ourselves, but that is healthy. And before we go, I want you both to leave your handles. So if people want to follow you, they can.
Yes. So I will, there's Journeying with Joe. That's on Instagram. And then there is the Life and Godliness series. So that's where you'll find the podcast as well as the devotional. It's a free e-devotional for Christian women. So you can find me there.
Okay, awesome.
And I have no plugs.
You have no. Okay. Oh my God. So thank you so much again, guys. I appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners for always listening to the Unfiltered by Jade. We'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you. Bam bam bide. Bam bam bide. Bam bam bide.